All right, as we end our first year together, we thought it would be great to look back at some of the best, worst, and most what the fuck films that we reviewed over the course of our first 12 episodes. So join myself, Waylon Bacon, and Gray Creasy as we give out awards to the films most deserving and least deserving that were all plucked from the shelves of my dad's video store. Great! Waylon, it's been quite a first year of doing the show. Are you both prepared to relive some of the joy and horror that we experienced over the last 12 months?
No.
It depends on what type of joy and what type of horror.
It'll be all. We'll cover all the joys and all the horror. So the nominees that were based on what folks collectively thought from each episode was their favorite. So that's how we determined which of the films to nominate in each category. All right, so let's dive into our first award, and let's start things off with the absolute stinkers. The nominees for worst film of the year are The Vindicator from 1986, Hamburger the Motion Picture from 1986, Howard the Duck, once again, 1986. I'm seeing a pattern here.
Banner year.
Yeah. Wisdom, also from 1986. And The Horror Show from 1989. All right, wow, 1986. What a shit banner year that was.
I think it's because it was the year New Wave really started declining. I think that's the connection there.
Yeah.
New Wave started declining, and they did bad movies.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'd buy that.
Waylon, of the nominees, which of these would you say was the absolute biggest piece of shit?
Definitely Hamburger the Motion Picture. I actually have I wrote a star next to it while you were doing your intro. I didn't even have to think about it.
The worst piece of garbage of them all, Hamburger the Motion Picture. All right, well, fair enough. All right, Gray, which of these cinematic abominations would you give the award worst film to?
There are reasons I could argue for every last one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Oddly, I think out of all of them, I probably say Howard the Duck is the least of the awfuls. But and I'm probably gonna buck the trend here. Hamburger the Motion Picture is clearly the most offensive and the most egregious to my soul. Like it is the most racist, misogynistic, and just awful of all of them.
Yep.
However, it doesn't commit the cardinal sin to me of movies, which it is not boring. If there's one thing you can say about Hamburger, it is not boring. And The Vindicator often is boring, but it does have a robot man, and it does have Pam Grier, and it does have a few good things going for it. The one movie on this list that bored me to tears, the only movie that I almost fell asleep during a few times, was Wisdom. I'm giving it to Wisdom.
All right. Excellent. The Emilio Estevez directorial debut, the one that he is deeply ashamed of, Wisdom. So
fair enough.
That is the wisdom Gray is passing on to all of us. So avoid this film at all costs. Yeah, I mean, I could do the same. I'm kind of with you. I don't think Howard the Duck is all bad. It certainly is a lot of bad, but then it also has some good stuff in too. Especially that really cool space demon at the very end. That's pretty awesome. The Horror Show barely didn't even make it on this list, actually. But it is a pretty bad movie overall. But it's a very enjoyable bad, and it also has a great execution scene. So, there's that kind of keeping it above things. Hamburger, I'm kind of like you, because that movie, while, it's so offensive and bad, it's also like surreal and bizarre, but it's extremely entertaining. And there's just things about it that like stick in my brain, especially the theme songs and stuff in it. So they're just permanently trapped in there, but for better or worse. But I'm different from you. Like, it's the same reason, but it's a different movie. It's bad. I thought Wisdom was bad, but like, the acting's pretty good.
Yeah.
It does reunite Veronica Cartwright and Tom Skerritt, from Alien, so that's cool. It's such a bland movie. But The Vindicator is genuinely so freaking boring. It's just like, the robot suit that Stan Winston designed is great, but man, it's just like, I just was like, when's this thing going to be over? I can't believe I liked this when I was a kid. Out of all the movies, like, to like revisit, that was definitely the one that was like, talk about like biggest like nosedive off the cliff in terms of like how I used to feel about it when I was younger to where I feel about it now. So I'm going to go with The Vindicator. Because I just thought it was a hot piece of shit. So we split the first one 3 ways.
Damn.
All right.
And I don't think I was actually on the episode we watched The Vindicator, so my opinion is slightly less informed.
Yeah, that's true. You've missed a couple. So
one.
unless you went back to watch some of these stinkers. Yeah.
Well, you've really sold me on watching The Vindicator, so I'll get right on that.
It has Pam Grier. It should be glorious, and she's like a bounty hunter, and yet it's not good. All right, well, on to better things. The most surprising. So this is like a category that's a little bit interesting. So like either this was like the most surprising to me that I was like, oh wow, I had no idea that this was so good. I didn't remember this being this good, and this is actually really good. Or it just kind of surprised us collectively and stuff, because a lot of these Gray and Waylon had not seen. That's how we kind of came up with these. These were the ones that were like the big surprise from the episodes we collectively did over the year. All right, so the nominees for most surprising are Hot Dog the Movie from 1983, Soul Survivor from 1984, 9 Deaths of the Ninja 1985, and Destroyer from 1988. All right. So, Waylon, which of these would you say surprised you the most?
Man, it's interesting. It's a tie for me. No, they all surprised me the most. They were all movies I had no expectations of. Like Destroyer, I had an idea of what kind of thing I was going in for based on the poster, which, if anyone remembers, is just a super ripped dude holding a, what do you call it? A jackhammer?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, okay, I think I know what this is. And it turned out to be a much more of like an interesting kind of slow burn supernatural thriller, quite effective. 9 Deaths of the Ninja, I had no idea. It was just a complete bonkers, insane, beautiful piece of cinematic art. I don't know what to make of that. And Hot Dog the Movie was just a surprisingly competent, fun 80s comedy. So yeah, I'm having a hard time choosing. I might go 9 Deaths of the Ninja, because that's the one that I feel I would be the most likely to show people at a movie night.
Nice. What about you, Gray? What was the most surprising for you?
Yeah, I'm having a very hard time.
Yeah, it is. It's tough. This is a tough category.
I'm with Waylon on this. I think I think for me it's between Hot Dog. For Hot Dog specifically, because I didn't expect it to be, even though it is raunchy, I didn't expect it to be also as wholesome as it was and delightful. 9 Deaths, I was expecting a more typical ninja movie, and then it turned out to be this bonkers, almost trauma level, like crazy comedy satire. It was just phenomenal. And then Destroyer, exactly what Waylon said. I thought it was going to be stupid and then I was like, wow, this is particularly all the actors going just full in on this ridiculous movie. Is it Destroyer or is it 9 Deaths? It's one of those two. Actually, I'm going to go with Destroyer because of everyone, like I said, the actors, Anthony Perkins, all of that, and how utterly competently it was made. Like and particularly the game show stuff at the beginning, and that was cool. The execution scenes, the split diopter stuff.
Yeah,
it just was so utterly surprising. So yeah, Destroyer.
Nice. Yeah, this was a tough choice. So Soul Survivor, actually, it's interesting. That one for me, that wasn't a big surprise necessarily, because I remembered it being fantastic. I actually put it up there because, Gray, I don't think you had ever seen it.
I had not, but I was aware of what it was.
Gotcha.
So that's why I wasn't surprised, yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. I put it on there, because I remember you being kind of surprised by it. And I don't think Jason Shawn had seen it in a very long time, and I think like he was also pretty thrilled with it. But yeah, I think like that was probably the least surprising for me, because I remembered it scaring the shit out of me when I was a kid, and I watched it again. I was like, oh, this is a really scary, effective horror movie all the way through. But yeah, I think the one that definitely took me back the most was 9 Deaths of the Ninja. because Nine Deaths of the Ninja, it would be between Nine Deaths of the Ninja and Destroyer. Because Hot Dog I knew was good. I knew was like, I was like, Hot Dog, I was hoping it was going to hold up, and it did. But Hot Dog was one I watched quite a bit when I was a kid. Nine Deaths, though, I think because I was so into ninja movies when I was a kid, because it was such a wacky, bizarro, hilariously bad ninja movie, I didn't think much of it. I think I watched it like once or twice. I watched Revenge of the Ninja like 100 times or something.
Yeah.
Watching it now, that's the one that really surprised me. Destroyer was very close though, because Destroyer, I thought I remember seeing it once, didn't think much about it, never revisited it in my head again. Picked it simply because of the theme, obviously. And then that was a total surprise of how good it was. It was not expected at all by all the things you said. But I'm going to go with Nine Deaths of the Ninja because, man, if there is one movie also that surprised me that I want to revisit again and show people, it's definitely Nine Deaths of the Ninja.
Yeah,
it is
for sure.
amazing. It is amazing. So I guess Nine Deaths of the Ninja got 2 votes. So I guess we can
Yeah, it
actually
wins.
say Nine Deaths of the Ninja was definitely the most surprising of the year. Before we dive into the specific genre awards, we have a couple of special award give out. The first of these is the Wayland's Fuck You Brad Award, and that goes to none other than Mother's Day from 1980. Wayland, do you want to discuss why you told me to go fuck myself for making you watch this one?
Fuck you, Brad. All right, so Mother's Day is just offensive on every level. It takes a horrible subject matter and plays it for laughs in a way that makes me extremely uncomfortable. It's got terrible acting, poor plotting. It's got an attempt to do a trauma thing, but without any of the charm or the charisma. Yeah, I cannot get that time back that I spent watching Mother's Day.
It's so interesting too, because like I think
Huzzah.
the other 3 of us like enjoyed Mother's Day and stuff for all
Yes.
for warts and all.
Yeah, I enjoyed parts of Mother's Day.
Yeah, same.
And it's funny because I don't hate movies that often, but yeah, and I try not to be. Although I swear this podcast has ruined me because this is why film critics get vicious. Like, because I know when this started out, I don't want to rag on movies. It's hard to make a movie,
Yeah,
and then a year in, you get a little jaded. Oh,
yeah.
God, I have to watch this thing.
Yeah,
Why did
and
they make it like this?
Yeah,
Bastards.
and you have to talk about it. So, as opposed to
Yeah.
like, you don't have to talk about it when you just watch something. And you can just be like, well, I just won't talk about it because I didn't like it. Sorry for making you watch that, Waylon. But
It's okay, Brad.
Them's the breaks, kid.
I knew what I was signing up for. This is revenge for being I was the guy who always made my friends watch like Meet the Feebles and stuff like that on movie nights. I always brought the thing that would traumatize everybody. So this is complete karmic payback.
There you go. All right. Well, another oddball award that we have is the most revisited film that gets referenced over and over. It's a movie most of us would probably like to forget, but for some fucking weird reason, we can't escape its tight grip. And that is none other than Hamburger, the motion picture. Why is this the Kevin Bacon of our show? Why is there 6 degrees of all other films around Hamburger, the motion picture?
Well, for one reason, hamburgers all over America.
Which your wife wants to have a talk to me about. So I guess I'm going to get it when I come into Nashville for Christmas. She says you're singing that song constantly around the house. So
It's true. It's hard not to. Yeah,
we've seen actors from
like Lee McCluskey is in Lucky Stiff.
Yeah,
snow skiing comes up. Yeah, I don't know. It just keeps popping up.
So I think we just can't escape. I think it's made a burnt spot on our brain. Waylon, what do you think? Why do we keep talking about this fucking movie?
I do think that's that. I feel like it might be one of those films too, where on paper it may have read as like a really big commercial successful idea, which is why we keep encountering people who were in it. Like these 6 degrees of separation. It just seems like it's America. Everybody loves hamburgers. Hamburger, the motion picture. I even went into it going, this will probably be, if not great, at least good. Because of the concept. So that's my logical theory. But the illogical, paranoid part of me just thinks that there is a curse upon us until we make.
Curse of Hamburger.
We keep running into people who are like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you've seen that."
Yeah.
That keeps
Yeah.
happening too.
That's true. That's
So
true.
yeah, I
Steven
thought it was
was,
a fever dream I had when I was a kid, and it's like, oh
yeah,
no, no, it
yeah,
exists.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to forget. I think that's the thing about it. One of those movies that's cumulatively so bad, so surreal. Like you can't believe you watched it. And the fact that we dove into this bizarro movie, it's really stuck with us. It's the shit on the shoe. So it's just hard to get off.
Both.
All right, well, let's get into genres. We're going to start with the genre I think all three of us love very, very dearly. We're going to talk about Best Horror. All right, well, the nominees for Best Horror are My Bloody Valentine from 1981, Eyes of Fire from 1983, Something Wicked This Way Comes from 1983, Chopping Mall from 1986, and Prison from 1987. Waylon, this is a tough one, but in the immortal words of the Highlander, there can be only one. What's your one?
It's a tough call, especially because I missed Eyes of Fire. It was one of my.
Did you go back and rewatch that one, or have you still not seen that one?
I still haven't seen it actually, so
You should see that one. You
obviously.
should watch that one. Yeah, you should definitely.
Maybe
You should seek that one out. It's pretty great.
I'll put that on as my dinner movie tonight. Eyes of Fire. Do you think it would go good with a shrimp burrito?
Yes.
Okay, but it was a tough call. My two favorites were probably Something Wicked This Way Comes and Prison.
Mm.
And I'm going to go Prison only because Something Wicked This Way Comes is, at least known enough because the book is famous. Prison, however, is really under the radar. I mean, I'd never heard of this thing, and I was quite surprised by it. And actually, when I mentioned Destroyer being a slow burn, these two movies are getting mixed up in my brain. Prison is actually the slow burn that I was referring to. Prison is just well-paced, creepy, smarter than you think it's going to be. So anyone listening, if you haven't seen Prison from 1987, check it out.
Yeah, it's kind of awesome. Yeah, and not nearly sung enough in the horror community. It really should be. It's fantastic. Great. Which was your favorite?
Well, I love all these movies for different reasons. People might think I would say Something Wicked This Way Comes, and in fact, I think it's probably my favorite of the two. But for horror, just talking horror, I'm gonna go Eyes of Fire over Something Wicked, just because I think it's a more horrifying movie. And if you listen to the episode, you'll know why I chose that. It's deep in my DNA, and it's folk horror, and it just really creeps me out, man, on a very psychological level. So for horror, yeah, Eyes of Fire.
I knew you were gonna pick that one. I just knew it. I was like, although it's funny, I was torn. I was like, maybe he'll go with Something Wicked because we all love that one so much. But
Yeah.
yeah, Something Wicked. This was a tough one actually, but it really came down to two films. And I'm kind of like you, Gray. Something Wicked. It's not like pure horror exactly. It's like kind
Right.
of fantasy and there is some scary bits, but it is still kind of geared towards kids. But like
A
for
more
just
dark fantasy.
yeah, it's very dark fantasy, and I mean, I love it so much. It's a sublime film, but yeah, I think just for pure horror, like wow, this is like a really scary movie that has these great set pieces. It's incredibly well made. I'm gonna have to go, much like Waylon, I'm gonna have to go with Prison. Prison is held up, and man, is it still a killer horror movie. And like Waylon said, not enough folks talk about this. So if I can champion a great film that people should seek out, Prison's a good one for sure. All right, well, we got 2 votes for Prison, so I guess Prison is the best horror of the year.
All right.
Woo.
All right, excellent. All right, well, from horror to cheap laughs. Here's the best comedy nominees. We've got Eating Raoul from 1982, Hot Dog the Movie from 1983, Nine Deaths of the Ninja, also from 1983. All right, those are our 3 comedy noms. Of the 3, Waylon, which was your favorite?
I gave it a little thought, and I'm going to go with Eating Raoul.
Nice.
I'm also excited to stay Eating Raoul again because we just had dinner with my friend and executive producer Katie Devlin, who listens to the podcast, who said, I liked the cannibalism episode, but you kept saying Eating Raoul instead of Raoul, and I think it's because my parents are from the Midwest, so I also say crayon instead of crayon. So Eating Raoul.
I always like how that's like not how you spell the name Raoul either. Like Paul Bartel misspelled it because he didn't know. And that's how it ended up like that.
Totally.
No one spells Raoul.
Yeah, Raoul.
Yeah, that's bizarre.
I just thought it was because it was a snooty indie for years. You know, I'd see the
Yeah.
box art.
Right, right.
Oh,
Oh,
Raoul.
Raoul.
I see. Mhm.
Gray, what tickled your funny bone the most?
Oh yeah, eating roll, no brainer. I mean, as hilarious, as utterly side-splittingly hilarious as Nine Deaths of the Ninja is,
Yeah.
and as weird as it is,
Yeah.
you can't beat eating roll. Like
Yeah.
that, you just can't.
Yep.
No.
This is wow. We've got pure consensus. We didn't have a lot in this category, but yeah, eating Raoul. It's kind of a no contest. It's probably in my top 15 favorite comedies. Actually, I freaking love this movie.
Sure.
I've always loved it. It's so inventive and so funny. And it's amazing how well it's held up. Like, it didn't lose a beat in time. So, which a lot of comedies do. A lot of comedies I've revisited that were just side-splitting funny back in the 80s, and now you watch them and you just like barely laugh one or two times. So, but Eating Raoul is still as funny as it was when it came out. So, yeah, definitely Eating Raoul. Well, that's definitely the funniest film that we reviewed, which we didn't review a ton of comedies, to be frank with you.
Yeah.
Although Hot Dog, I think, was the one that maybe surprised folks the most of us.
Yeah,
all.
comedy-wise,
Yeah,
yeah.
comedy-wise, I
Yeah.
think Hot Dog was the one that was beloved and surprised folks for sure. So definitely folks seek out Hot Dog as well.
It's been driving me nuts for months. Something we forgot to mention on that Hot Dog the Movie episode, because we also watched Meatballs.
Yes.
And in Meatballs, there's a party scene, and they're all dancing to the song "Making It,"
Yep.
performed, as I found out later, by David Naughton, who
Yep.
stars in Hot Dog the Movie.
Yeah,
That's right,
Yes. Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
God, now I can sleep
Yep.
at night.
So,
Okay.
yes. Well, some fans pointed that out to us too. You know, it was like, oh, you guys
they?
didn't
Oh,
mention
okay.
that. And I was like, yeah, we talked about it after the fact and we totally forgotten to do it. But yeah, definitely worth mentioning. All right. Well, from gut busting funnies to robots, lasers, and aliens, it's time for our best sci-fi of the year. All right, well, the nominees are Space Hunter, Adventures Across the Forbidden Zone from 1983, Rock and Roll, also from 1983, Runaway from 1984, and The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai, also from 1984. Waylon, the future is yours. What shall you choose?
Ooh. You know, it's a tough call, as always. I did like Runaway quite a lot. It's a good Todd thriller.
Yeah,
Tom Selleck, you know, it's awesome.
Michael Crichton.
Uh,
Yeah.
Michael Crichton, but I have to go with The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai. It's epic. It's totally unique. You know, it kind of makes you feel all warm and fuzzy when you're watching it. Yeah, that's a movie. There's never not a good time to watch Buckaroo Banzai.
Yeah.
You know, some movies only work at like 3 a.m. or something. Buckaroo Banzai works at 3 a.m. or 3 p.m. I like it.
Yeah.
For sure. Gray, what's your pick?
Well, all I gotta say is anywhere you go, there you are.
There you are.
Yep. I mean, this one is a pretty easy choice for me. Buckaroo Banzai. My second choice would probably be Space Hunter. That one was I wouldn't say surprise. I'd seen it before, but not since I was 7. But it was one of those that lived up to my childhood memories and really blew my socks off. But nothing's gonna be like Buckaroo Banzai. It's just a one of a kind. I don't think anything ever will be like Buckaroo Banzai again.
Probably
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
It's truly unique. Truly unique.
Yep.
I'm with you guys. As much as my second runner-up would have probably also been Space Hunter. That one was a little bit almost like a most surprising movie, but not quite, because I do remember liking it quite a bit when I was a kid. You know, Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai, hands down, no contest in a way, because it's an absolute cult classic with one of the greatest casts in film history. One of the wildest, craziest, most original plots in film history. And it's an absolute banger. And I'll never get that end credits theme song out of my head. Love Buckaroo Banzai. Easily the best sci-fi of the year. All right. We have come to the moment of truth. The best fucking movie of the year. The nominees are Something Wicked This Way Comes from 1983, Space Hunter from 1983, The Legend of Billie Jean from 1986, Prison from 1987, Parents from 1989, and Darkman from 1990. Waylon, name your champion.
You know, hard to choose, but I'm actually going to go with The Legend of Billie Jean.
Oh, nice.
My
Hey.
reasoning and my reasoning was tough because it was a toss for me between that and Darkman. But I think, you know, Darkman, we all know Darkman's cool and Darkman's very competent technically. But The Legend of Billie Jean has just got a lot of heart. It's kind of the underdog of the list, and it's the movie that got me to finally accept that Pat Benatar is awesome.
Major
I'm gonna
breakthrough.
go with Legend of Billie Jean.
Nice, nice. What about you, Gray?
All right. This is really, really hard.
Yeah.
Basically, because of the all of the disparate genres,
Uh-huh.
and these are all some of my favorite movies of all these different genres. And having to pick between Legend of Billie Jean, Darkman, and Something Wicked is really tearing me apart. But ultimately, it's got to be Something Wicked This Way Comes.
Nice.
Even
Nice.
over
Yeah.
Darkman and Legend of Billie Jean. I just keep coming back to it, you know. I think it's a near perfect movie, and you rarely get a movie that's better than the book, and you almost never get an adaptation that's better than a Ray Bradbury book,
Yeah.
and that's better than his own book, and I actually think it is better, which that never happens. So
Probably because it was
yeah.
always meant for the screen. You know, he
True,
wrote
it was. It
originally
was
for
meant.
the
It was
screen.
meant to be a movie from the
Yeah,
get-go.
yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
and he wrote the screenplay also. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Long journey to the screen, that one. This is really tough. You know, I love Parents, I love Prison, I love all of these films. For me, it kind of comes down to two movies, though. It comes down to Darkman and Something Wicked This Way Comes. As much as I love Legend of Billie Jean, as much as I love Prison and Parents and Space Hunter, it really kind of comes down to those two. And it's kind of it's like it's a thin hair. But I'm going to give it to Something Wicked This Way Comes. The influence that this movie has had on me, it was such a big part of my childhood. I watched it over and over again as a kid. And revisiting it, I got like a new perspective on it as an older person, especially a parent. And yeah, it's incredible. I just think it's such an incredible film. All right, well, that got 2 votes. So Something Wicked This Way Comes. Won Best Film of the Year. All right. Well, awesome. Cool.
Yay.
Yay.
Well, what a great first year. Thank you, everyone who listened to our podcast. Many of you never missed an episode, and that means the world to us. Thank you to all of our guests, Jason Sean, John Ferguson, Otis Johnson, Eric Curlin, PJ Starks, Greg Moss, and Steven Stull. And thank you, Waylon and Gray. You guys are the best. I love you both. This all just really started as an excuse to bullshit with you both about movies.
Yeah.
And we've turned it into a series that people seem to like and stuff, the folks that are listening. It's great. We hope to bring you even more exciting episodes in the new year. Till next time, please be kind as we rewind.